Love is Blind fans recognize you from the latest season of the show in Ohio. And fans last saw you and the other contestants on the reunion episode. But how has life been since then? What have you been up to?
Life's been good. A lot more calm. The reunion was a little bit wild. Not my best moment for sure, but I was, still dealing with like a lot of emotions and just a lot of, suppressed feelings at that time. So over the past couple of months, I've just been really focusing on myself, focusing on like getting my head clear, healing myself, and it's honestly, I'm in a really good place.
Absolutely. And, I think people who watch reality shows should give the contestants some grace because I feel as though a lot of people, it'd be hard to have their romantic relationships and personal moments shared with the public. It's not an easy thing. And obviously, a lot of people online have various opinions. I mean, how have you kind of navigated all of the attention and publicity?
I mean, it was hard, obviously. Um, Everybody first of all, it was a hard moment in general because that was really the first time Jordan and I confronted each other about our issues since he left in August. We really didn't talk at all until then, and then so we're on this stage in front of 200 people on national TV with a spotlight on us, and both of us are, like, sweating, and we don't know what the other person's gonna say, and it just started to really escalate, and then I kind of had, like, almost a panic attack, which is where I kind of brushed off in anger and, like, basically stormed off. I just had to I don't know, my head was just so I couldn't even think. Like, I had so many emotions going on, and I really didn't know what to do with them, so I just had to get off for a minute and take a minute and, like, cool down and breathe. It obviously came out as, like, anger, but it was just such a high pressure situation, and I really we're the first couple on Love is Blind to go to the reunion as a divorced couple, so nobody really knew how to navigate that. Production didn't even really know. I had talked to Allie, one of the executive producers before, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do this." So, it was just kind of like a free for all and obviously didn't go great. But, it is what it is. I also do not appreciate them having Vic and Christine going first before us. They're like, "Oh, we love each other so much." And then they're like, "Oh, Jordan Amber, how's that going?" And he's like, "You got drunk at a wedding." And I'm like, "You left my kid." I
Yeah,
was like, "Why
it's
do we have to go after the golden couple?"
exactly, exactly. Yeah, that had to be tough. I mean, and you mentioned so you and Jordan had gotten divorced, and then you said that was the first time you'd had a chance to confront each other was during that reunion episode. So in between when you got divorced and when you did the reunion episode, had you guys not talked at all?
No, not really.
Okay, and was there ever any interest between the two of you of maybe talking before the reunion episode and planning how to handle it, or were things just too was the relationship just too broken at that point where it wouldn't have been a productive conversation?
I don't really know. I didn't think it was that broken. I was a little bit confused. When he left, about him leaving so abruptly, I just kinda left him alone. I expected him to reach out at some point, but he didn't, and I wasn't gonna be that person that was like, "Hey, do you wanna talk?" You know what I mean? So I just kind of played everything by ear. I let him have his space, kind of learned in past relationships, both, being the dumper and being the dumpy, like, when you're the dumper, you really don't want that person reaching out unless you wanna get back together with them. Um, it's kind of just, like, one of those weird, awkward conversations, and then being the dumpy in the past, like, reaching out has felt like a stretch. You get these, like, false hopes with everything, so I just let the dust settle, but, yeah, I mean, looking back, we definitely should have had conversations prior. I don't think either of us really knew how to handle it.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it must not have been easy, but obviously, you guys met on the show and got married, and one scene from the show that went viral was your wedding scene, and Jordan. When I watched the episode, in some of his private conversations he had with relatives, he expressed, some doubts and he talked about, not wanting to move out of Mount Vernon where he was living. When he got to the altar, he said, I want to go with my heart and say I do rather than just I do with this chest out. Looking back, do you think maybe he didn't want to get married in the first place and he didn't know how to say no? Or do you think that in the moment he genuinely wanted to get married?
I mean, I definitely think it was that he really didn't know how to say no, and I think that he thought that he could. I thought he was going to say no, I kinda gave him every opportunity up there to be okay with it, and when he said yes, it was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the happiest moment of my life." Like, I thought he had, just had that moment, and he told me, he's like, "Yes, when you got up there, it was the most I felt just at peace and at ease. I'd been nervous all day, and I, knew this." And then, at the wedding, he was like, "I'm willing to move to Mount Vernon for a little bit to see how things go, so we're not uprooting everything." So, I don't know, it was really just like I don't it was one of those fairy tales that looking back wasn't really a fairy tale. Um,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because I remember when I watched that episode when he said, "I wanna go in my heart and say I do." Everyone in attendance initially kind of froze because they didn't know what he was gonna say, and then there was the delayed reaction, everyone started cheering, and it was, a cool moment at the time, but I guess maybe in hindsight, do you think maybe he kind of gave you false hope in that moment?
Yeah, 100%. I think he didn't wanna look terrible on TV.
Mhm.
And he didn't wanna look like the bad guy or the a-hole or anything like that. So I think, I've listened to him in other interviews and he's kind of backpedaled. He said like, "Oh, well, I didn't know Emma was gonna be there and I couldn't say no." Like he knew Emma was gonna be there. We talked about it with production like 3 weeks prior. I had to
Mhm.
get Matt, her dad to sign all this paperwork for her to even come on. Like he was a part of all that. So that's not why, you know what I mean? Um, s like I said, it is what it is, and looking back, I just remember on the wedding day knowing that he was probably going to say no. I didn't have a good feeling in my gut, and, I'm there getting ready, putting my dress on, and I'm just like, "Yeah, this is just kind of another day," and just kinda like a slap in the face, whatever. And looking back, if I ever do get married again, I don't wanna feel like that on my wedding day. Like,
Right.
I wanna actually be happy, and I want a man that's so confident in saying yes. Like, if you're not that confident, then go away. Like, Em and I have so much to offer somebody if we even decide to let somebody else into our life again. I have a great career, we have a house, we have everything, and we have so much love to give somebody. So if somebody doesn't really think that's enough, then there's other people that do. If again, like I said, we decide to give, somebody else a chance. Right now, that's not on the table.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there, and that's relatable, like, for me, like, with the women I've dated in the past, I've never wanted to pursue someone who's not into me, if that makes sense. I'm a prideful person as well, so it's like it's almost like the whole mindset of I don't want anyone who doesn't want me. So I see what you're saying about, wanting to have a future husband who's all in and all in on you and also your daughter Emma. And your daughter Emma, she was 7 at the time of the filming of the show, and she's 9 now. And I think you navigated everything well. Obviously, dating when you have a child, there's a way that people have to go about it, but then also having a kid when you're a public figure on our reality show, you had to navigate both things at the same time. Dating and trying to find someone as a parent and also having a child while you're in the public eye. And for anyone I guess maybe a two-pronged question. For anyone who has kids who's reentering the dating world, what advice would you have for them? And also, what advice would you have for anyone who is a parent who's in the public eye and is worried about protecting their child's privacy?
I had a lot of criticism because of the fact that, Jordan met her so soon. We were just jumping into things. But when I look back at it, the amount of time we spent together between like the apartments and the pods and everything like that, I was dating a guy for like 3 years that I didn't spend that much time with, you know?
Yeah.
So it really, and everybody's true colors really come out very fast at that pace. Like we saw true colors from the guys, saw true colors from the girls. I saw Jordan's true colors down the road, like very, very fast. that's something that I'm actually okay with because that if we didn't do this, that could have lasted 3 years,
Mhm,
you know?
yeah.
And then it would have been just a huge giant waste of my time then. Like, at least I only wasted, like, you know, 4 to 6 months. Um, but I knew him on, like, that personal level from the amount of time, like, we were together all the time, and we didn't have phones while we were in Cabo. We didn't have TV, we didn't have distractions, so we were just getting to know each other. It's, like, really hard in the dating world now. Like, you go out with somebody, usually you're around their friends, you might be at a bar, you might be at a restaurant, you've got so many distractions. It's like, are you really getting to know that person for who they are, or did they, like, pick you up with a nice car and take you to a fancy dinner, and you're, like, not necessarily paying attention to some red flags or some issues that may be going on because it's, like, almost masked by this facade that's around you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that's also kind of a problem with modern dating and also just dating over the years is people focus so much on the unimportant things like how nice of a house does this person have? What's their job title? What type of car do they drive? What type of restaurant are they taking me to? And they overlook maybe character flaws because they're so focused on the superficial things. And so, yeah. And so with Love is Blind, because some of the superficial things are not exposed during the dating process. I mean, when you're dating the person, you don't even know what they look like until after they propose. I mean, was that part of what prompted you to want to go on Love is Blind? Is because it would allow you to connect with someone more and not hyper focus on the superficial things?
I'm definitely more of a deep person, and I love deep conversations, and I've just been so used to meeting guys who are basically only focused on superficial aspects, just kinda taking me around to the, like, country clubs or taking me out around their friends or things like that, not really caring what I had to say, so I was really entering this, hoping to find somebody that I could actually connect with on, like, an emotional level for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, also, as far as your experience, since the show, I think some Love is Blind fans forget that the contestants on the show have jobs and normal lives, and so, what's it like going from the reality TV world, going back to your day job and your day-to-day routine?
Oh my gosh, I've never felt more comfortable in my life going back to my job. It is really what I'm meant to do. I love taking care of my patients. I'm a primary care provider in a rural clinic, and I like all my patients I've taken care of for around like 4 to 5 years now. That's when I came into the practice as like their primary care provider. So I take care of their kids, their grandparents, their parents. It's almost like a big family, and just coming back, they embraced me again, like, they were giving me hugs in the office. It was just so comforting to have that support no matter what happened. So I will say it felt just like being at home. I felt like in the reality TV world, I was almost like on this roller coaster or a ship out in sea where I just didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know what response was going to happen next. Like, one minute I'm everybody's hero, the next minute I'm like this irresponsible mom that's blah, 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 like, everybody's shouting, screaming, everything. People are fighting on both ends. People are fighting with each other. I'm like, "God, why can't I be just one of those boring people that no one says shit about?"
As a parent in general, I mean, how much of a blessing has it been in your life being Emma's mother?
Oh my god, the best blessing on the planet. I run into people all the time. It's so interesting to me. Um, who are like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna have kids, but it's just not in my timeline yet. Like, it's not blah, blah, blah." Like, you don't have to have this cookie cutter life for it to happen. And just because it doesn't happen when you expected it to happen doesn't mean it's not going to be the most genuine blessing on the planet. Even in those hard days when I was going to school, like working 12 hours, taking care of her, we just have this love for each other. She has that same love with her dad that I don't know, it's just different. I wouldn't trade it for any cookie cutter life.
Yeah, and it's interesting also because everyone is on their own path. So, you mentioned like being a parent while you're in school, and also it's funny because there are some people who have the quote unquote cookie cutter life, but behind the scenes aren't happy. And yeah, and yeah,
Likes that shit. Like, I don't know.
yeah. Well, no, 100%. And so, I mean, and also there are some, I feel as though people with untraditional paths get stigmatized a little bit. I mean, relatable for me, I mean, I'm an only child and my mother's no longer alive. So I have an immediate family of one person, my dad. I have a great relationship with him. We're not, a normal family, quote unquote, but it's awesome. And also some of the best parents are maybe parents who are no longer together, but they still really love their kid versus there are people who are still together who have kids who suck at parenting. So, I think
Absolutely.
yeah, people put people in certain boxes, but it sounds like, you made everything work very well.
And so sorry to hear about your mom too.
That's okay. Yeah, she's this wasn't the direction I saw the conversation going in, but she got brain cancer years ago, so they didn't end up having more kids. But I the plan was not for me to be the only one. But yeah, immediate family of one. But I get along with my dad great. We have a great time, kind of similar to what you mentioned with Emma.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But, also, I wanted to ask you a few more things. So obviously, there's a lot to talk about from this season, but you mentioned also your work as a nurse practitioner. So some people who go on Love is Blind and other reality shows, they have a day job before they go on the show, but then after they go on the show and they get some publicity, they become a social media influencer or a podcaster or this or that. I know you mentioned some of the fame from the show drove you crazy, so maybe that wasn't the most appealing path for you, after the show, but was there any interest ever in, like, being a podcaster or an influencer or going on a different career path after the show, or did you always wanna go back to being a nurse practitioner?
I mean, I just love medicine so much, so that's hard. I am okay with, like, I love being guest on podcast, for example. As far as the influencing goes, people have way better ideas than I do. I can't make a creative post to, like, save my life. I'm like, "Oh, how'd they do that?" I don't know. I know a lot about people's bodies and healthcare. Like,
Yeah,
I am not that cool. Also, I don't know, like, I'm okay with doing some, like, publicity ads for things that I really like, but I'm not gonna just go on, like, some corny bullshit and
right,
no.
right.
Like, I think that's, like, so corny when people go on reality shows and then their entire, like, Instagram is just advertisements. I get that it's a business, but it's like, "Bro, did" I don't know.
I've heard people say that actually a guy, I had on this podcast a while ago, he was on season 2 of Love is Blind in Chicago, Nick Thompson. He said that a lot of reality TV people just start promoting brands and stuff on their social media as their full-time job. He said he never wanted to do that because he doesn't wanna, like, promote brands that he doesn't even believe in just to enrich himself. So kinda similar to your point. Okay, so you're not gonna be, advertising the latest, cool shoes in Ohio or anything on your Instagram anytime soon.
No, and everybody knows I don't wear cool shoes, so that was just a lie.
What's your go-to type of shoe then?
I wear these, like, flats to work, and I have a pair of Hokas and some cheap Marshalls brand heels. Like, I'm not that I'm not a super fashionable girl or anything like that. I think styles are cute, but again, that's everybody knows that's not me, like, so I don't know, it's and again, then sometimes I think, like, would these people even go on the show if Instagram didn't exist?
Right. Well, and I mean, I guess building off that, I mean, of the people who go on romantic reality shows like Love is Blind or The Bachelor, what percentage of people do you think are going on it to find a relationship versus going on for publicity?
God, I can't even tell you. There's a lot going on for publicity and, it's it is what it is, I guess.
And
Well,
would you say it's more than half?
I would say, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, and was that also something when you were going on the dates with everyone before you decided to get married to Jordan, were you kind of trying to keep an eye out for that, for someone who seems like they're looking for publicity so you don't end up just, being someone who helps them get publicity and while they waste your time?
Absolutely, but it's hard to read, everybody's kinda trying to act genuine, so, it is what it is. I was trying to look for people that were definitely more themselves.
Mhm. Okay, and you're looking for that authenticity because yeah, it is definitely a red flag if someone's too polished. It's kind of like with celebrities because I've interviewed different celebrities through my podcasts and my TV work, but the celebrities that are too smooth rub me the wrong way. The ones who are the most skilled at maintaining an image are usually the worst people behind the scenes. So, it just that comes across as phony to me. So I guess maybe similar to you, you weren't looking for someone who was fake and it sounded like they were reading their LinkedIn resume when they were telling you about themselves. I mean, you were looking for a
Absolutely.
genuine connection.
I mean, and I think everybody saw on the show, like, I am who I am, and I can't hide it. Whether it's in front of, like, 2 people or a damn near audience of, like, 2,000,000 people, like, I don't know. It just is what it is. You're just gonna get Amber.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, I know things with you and Jordan didn't work out, but when you first met him in the pods, was he very genuine towards you, or what was it that made you guys have your initial spark or initial connection?
He was very genuine, and I like that about him. I think I told producers when they were asking me what was the moment where you fell in love with him, and I was like, it was when, he came in on one of our dates and he's like, "Ooh," and he said something about, like, the peanuts or something. He's like, "Do you mind if I eat a little snack?" And I could hear him, like, opening it already and, like, putting it in his mouth, and I just, like, was like, "Oh, this guy's just, he is who he is too. He's just himself."
But, I guess also, as far as life moving forward, obviously, I'm not the type of interviewer who tries to pry information out of people, so you don't need to share your current relationship status with our audience, but I guess what are you looking for in your future husband as far as someone who'd be a good fit?
My relationship status is absolutely no one right now, and that's my choice.
Okay.
I also have always felt that after I get out of a relationship, I try to take a year off.
Mhm.
I was really bad in my 20s about kind of monkey jumping and like I had to like I would just jump right into another relationship because I felt like I couldn't be alone and it took me a while to break that habit. And once I started to break that habit, I really started to focus on like who I was dating and giving it a genuine thought instead of just like the first person who, was coming up to me so that I could just be in a relationship if that makes any sense. And as far as like I've thought about this a long time. Um if I do meet somebody that's genuine, I would potentially give them a chance. It was really, really hard for me to open up and be vulnerable to somebody and open up my daughter to somebody. I had never really opened up anybody to her. So, it put me in a really, really vulnerable spot and I got burned. So, I'm pretty closed off for a while on that. I love hanging out with my friends, my family. Like I am so busy most days that I'm like, I don't even know if I'd have time for a relationship. And my life is so good right now. Like I'm so at peace. I don't need somebody. I live within my means. I don't need somebody financially. Um, I can afford my house. I can afford to go to Europe to do things. I don't make a lot of money, but I am definitely by my means with that. Like I don't need I could really anybody for anything. So they really have to be adding a bonus to my life. And I really have to trust them because, again, my life is good right now.
Definitely. Well, I think it's very important for anyone to be comfortable being single, and that doesn't mean people should stay single for the rest of their lives, but the people who have to always be in a relationship and can't be alone, those are some of the people who maybe end up in bad relationships and stay in bad relationships. Yeah, because they fear being alone. So, and I really believe in a perfect world, you find the right person, but you're still better off. You're better off with the right person than alone in some situations, but you're still much better off alone than with the wrong person.
100%. And like, if you don't find that right person, I, I think we're just taught to focus too much on that. So then we're like looking for who's my person. And we're like, flipping through all these profiles and they've got to match this, that, and the third and blah, blah, blah. And I think back to my grandmother, who was like literally my hero. She was married for 40 years, but she didn't have a super great relationship with my grandfather because, he was part of it. He was kind of a drunk and then he sobered up for like around 10 years, but then he ended up dying of cancer when they were probably in their early 60s, right? So we were always like, "Are you gonna date again?" Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, "No." And she lived until she was 90 and she lived the best last 40 years of her life. Like she went out with her friends, she would go to the casino. She was so busy, like her phone rang off the hook. Like she was going nonstop, like every single day. And she planted her flowers. Her house was always clean. She was just so happy and content. And like she just found such a like loving community around her that she just let herself flourish. And she's like, no, I'm okay. So I don't think if people are out there single and they're like, I'm 30 years old, I'm 40 years old, I'm 50 years old, I'm gonna get back out there. It's like, you don't have to get back out there right away. If you find someone cool and if they mesh with you, but like you don't have to like get down on yourself and make that like the priority of your life is finding somebody.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think also another societal issue is that some people think it's strange if by a certain age you're not married with kids. But some people it takes them longer to find the right person to marry, and also the people who never get married, I still think they're better off than the people who marry someone solely because they're embarrassed to be single and end up
Absolutely.
in a horrible divorce. And there are some people I think who get married for the right reasons and it doesn't work out, but there are also some people who just get married because they think they have to meet a deadline, and that always is a disaster. And so yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and a lot of people out there probably have a lot of stories about, how how much of a mistake that was. But I guess also, I have a few more questions. We actually have one subscriber question that a big Love is Blind fan sent in for you. But, what are your plans in the near future? What are you up to?
I really want to travel more internationally and take Emma along the way. I did a really big trip to Europe with my brother in November, which was so fun. We went to Italy and we had absolutely no plans. Like we got there and we just got an Airbnb that day of whatever city we were in. And that's exactly how I wanted to do it. I was like, I don't want to be on this corny, like, oh, we have to be here for 3 days. Like, if we want to stay in Rome for 2 to 3 days, let's do it,
Yeah.
and we just had, like, the most incredible experience, so I was thinking about maybe taking Emma to Ireland, I think with her, it'd be easier to go to, like, an English-speaking country at first just because I didn't, really pick up great on the language barrier, my brother's really good at that, so I was just kinda like, following him around, um but I thought about taking her to, like, maybe stay in castles over in Ireland, get her a little more acclimated to, like, international travel and getting her out there. I am working on my gardens always, so I have huge flower beds and, I love taking care of my plants and my roses and everything in the summertime. That's a huge thing for me. I love canning in the summer, so I'm gonna be canning tomatoes, corn, green beans, salsa, jams, everything under the sun. Um, Probably gonna be making some bread, like, I'm a bumpkin. Just likes to travel sometimes.
Perfect, perfect. Well, you mentioned also, your brother comes on some trips with you. That's Jacob. He was in a few scenes on Love Is Blind, and obviously Jacob was kind of helping you through that whole process. There's a scene where you spoke to him right before the wedding with Jordan. Has he always kind of been a mentor for you?
Yeah, I mean, him and I are both mentors for each other for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and we're both, like, just very crudely honest with each other, which I love. We don't sugarcoat anything. So I had some people comment on his comment. They're like, "Oh, why would he say that?" Like, that's just something I expect out of my brother because both him and we're gonna, like, give you the worst case we're just going to be straight up with each other.
Right.
That's just how our relationship is. There is no, like, sugarcoating anything. Like, when we were in Europe, he hates when I'm, like, waking up late or being slow, and he's like, and it's not just, like, the sugarcoat, like, light knock on the door. But, I mean, that's how him and I grew up, so I don't know.
I know. I think I know what you're referring to though. There was a scene at the wedding when he said that he had his doubts that Jordan would say yes, and that's the one you're referring to. How you guys are always brutally honest with each other, and give each other worst case scenarios. And so I guess maybe I don't know because it's funny because Jordan said yes at the wedding, but maybe he wasn't being completely transparent. And I mean, after you guys split up, did you ever talk to Jacob about that, about his doubts about the relationship? And did that kind of put things in perspective?
Oh, absolutely. My brother and I had, like, several long conversations, and that's why that trip was, like, so good for us because I was able to just, like, cry and, like, talk to him about everything, and he was able to give me his perspectives and really be there, and be supportive. So, he was like, I was skeptical about it, and this is what I thought. He just had so many interesting perspectives. He's really good at reading people. Um,
Mhm.
and so I appreciated that for sure.
And I guess maybe he's someone who gives you advice, if maybe you're in a relationship with someone and he's not trusting of them, he thinks they might not be great for you. Actually, I heard that when you agreed to go on the Leverett Ball Show, he was telling you, I don't know if you should go on that podcast. I heard that guy's an asshole. Yeah, he had his private security do a background check on me before you agreed to this interview. But no, that's
No,
cool
Jake's
though.
actually gonna be so jealous because anything sports related, I know nothing about anything in
Oh
the sports
yeah.
world, and he would be sitting here trying to talk to you about effing baseball all day long, I'm sure.
Really? You know what's
Yeah.
funny? Because wow, it sounds like me and him would be like BFFs because, I used to play college baseball, and I've broadcasted different sports on ESPN, but I did a little bit with the Baltimore Orioles. So, I've spent some time in the baseball world between broadcasting with them and playing in college. Was he a former baseball player?
No, but he just watches it obsessively.
Big fan, big fan. And my dad
He
is
knows,
like
like,
that.
every single fact about every I don't know. I'm like, "Jacob,
Yeah. It
where'd you
it
even, like, find that out from?"
Yeah, baseball's a very statistical sport. People are obsessive with that side of the game. That makes a lot of sense. But you know, before we wrap things up, I always ask guests on the podcast, what types of upcoming events they're doing, where people can follow them on social media. But before we get to that, we have our subscriber question. And our subscriber question comes from Grace in Boston, Massachusetts. And she cut right to the chase with this question. She says, knowing what you know now, would you go on Love is Blind again?
Ooh, that's a question I've gotten a lot, and it's that's a really tough question for me to answer. It has changed my life in so many ways, and I met so many amazing women who are supportive. I love them. I'm so close with, like, Jess, Emma, Britt, like, pretty much all the girls, and they have just impacted my life so well, and then it was really interesting to see everything from a production side. Like, I'd never been in the TV world before. I had no idea, and that was definitely interesting. I mean, was it some of the hardest things I went through in my life? 100%. The 6 months following up until the reunion, like, seeing the reactions from people, that was really tough, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of glad I had that experience too because it was like, "Hey, let me rub your nose in it." If you've ever, like especially when it first came out, everybody's like, "Oh, is Amber, like, really, she looks like she's 40 or she needs to be in a nursing home." I'm like, "Jesus." I'm like, "Fine." But to be able to, like, take that criticism now and just take it, punch it, whatever, like, it is what it is, I'm kinda grateful for that because some of us never experience that. We just kinda live lives and we don't ever see our flaws, so it's very interesting to pick up on, like, what people said because it's like, "Oh, yeah, I definitely could have done that better. Or that was probably not great of me to say," or react in that moment, and, to be under that, spotlight is sometimes a little bit good for us, so it did help me grow a lot. I don't know if I could do it again. I'm glad I had the experience.
So safe to say though, you're not planning on going on more reality shows. So you won't be on Love is Visible next.
No, I would maybe go on one that was not love related.
Yes.
I don't know, put me in, like, a can off or something.
Yeah. Or I don't know, like a reality show about nurse practitioners. It could be called, like, Practitioner on Netflix or something.
Yeah, I don't yeah, anything that doesn't involve a man.
That's fair, that's fair. But, before we wrap things up, though, obviously, you've been great on the podcast today. It's been a lot of fun having you, but for any, hardcore fans of yours from Love Is Blind, do you have any public appearances planned? And also, where can people follow you on social media?
So I do have a couple public, appearances. Sorry, I did not say that right. Public appearances. I actually honestly have to check my email to see where they are because I can't even keep track of them. One of them is a football game somewhere. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at being an influencer.
Do you know which, team?
No,
Okay.
I'm just
Is
supposed to show up. I did the same thing
okay.
with the I with the Guardians game. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Show
But it's a football team, so if you're, like, at a Cleveland Browns game, you won't be like, "Hey, good luck in the tennis match, guys." You know which
exactly.
sport it is. Okay.
There is a football thing that I'm supposed to be, and there's a soccer thing too that I think I'm doing, and I will keep you guys updated on that.
Amber, obviously, it's been great having you on the podcast, and, I guess to wrap things up, what advice would you have? I kind of already touched on this earlier, but for anyone having similar life experiences to you, whether it's parenting or going through a divorce or being in the public eye, what advice do you have for anyone listening on how to go through that process and keep your sanity?
Yeah, for sure. As far as parenting goes, take all of this like perfect stuff that you think the kid has to be doing, knowing whatever, and all of the objects and everything that you think you take all of that out of it. Just love your kid. Have those moments. If you can't have those moments when you're like tickling your kid and cuddling and you guys are just laughing in bed, or like, I don't know, Emma and I will pretend to be like aardvarks or something and just be stupid together. Like one day we're dinosaurs and, we're just being crazy. If you can't have those moments, you are missing out so much and you're focusing way too much on like, they need to be eating this, that, the third, broccoli, blah, blah. Like the kid just needs love and they need to trust you. And you do need to parent. You don't need to be like their best friend for sure. Emma knows like if she gets too sassy and I give her that mom look, she is stoning right down. Um, but at the same time, you shouldn't be in a position. I know it's, like, kinda controversial. People are like, "Well, you need to yell at kids, you don't need to yell at kids." I don't know, I've never had to yell at Emma because we just have a respect range, like, the minute I kind of tell her she's crossed the line, she calms down. I don't know what it's like to not have a kid like that, but I think it would be pretty miserable to be in a household where that's all you're everybody's just yelling at each other all the time. I think it's important for parents to have that balance and to actually, like, truly love their kids for sure. Because again, if you don't, you are just missing out on so much. It's so much fun. And they have really interesting things to say. Like I would honestly rather stay at home on a Friday night and talk to Emma about the latest like news on penguins than I would going out to the bar and just being with people talking about random shit they have. Like, "Oh, I'm on a new camper. Oh, I'm going there. Oh, I'm, like, doing this," or, "I got this promotion." It's like, "No, I actually wanna hear about these whales that Emma knows a lot about." Like, that's actually interesting.
Well, maybe when she's 21, she can be your bar buddy. You guys can chop it up at the bar.
No, I'm like, "You are not gonna go down that." I feel like all of us that I don't know, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay, so kinda seeing me. So I'm 35, and it's really funny. I feel like we all had that, like, toxic early 20s, just our college days were
Yeah.
terrible. I mean, that's when Four Locals were coming out, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "I do not want you to have the same experience as I did when I was 21." That was probably lost a lot of brain cells there. As far as the reality show, if you plan on being on a reality show, do it for the right reasons. Don't just try to do things for attention or anything. Everybody can see that. Everybody's annoyed with you when you do that. Just be authentic.
Well, that I think, it must not have been easy balancing everything from the publicity to having a day job to being a parent, but you did the best you could, and I think you learned a lot from it. And I think you can be a great example for anyone in similar situations because it's not an easy thing to navigate. But Amber, I really appreciate all your insight on the podcast today. I'm sure our audience has as well. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So once again, everyone, you've been listening to the Leverett Ball Show. Thanks for tuning in.